Good afternoon. Very glad to see this lovely turnout this afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to today's public reading and children's festival. And we're very pleased today on behalf of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, as well as our partners in this event, the West Indian Association Bermuda, to have with us Lynn Joseph, our writer-in-residence, who's here for 3 weeks. And she's doing a fantastic job in our workshops, as well as some school visits. We'd like to begin the public reading with some welcoming remarks by the Junior Minister of Community Development, Senator David Burt. Senator?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure, on behalf of the Honorable Minister Michael Weeks, the Minister for Community Development, to welcome you to the reading of our writer-in-residence, Miss Lynn Joseph. Miss Joseph is an award-winning Trinidadian author whose books include Jasmine's Parlor Day, A Coconut Kind of Day, and The Color of My Words, which you can purchase here today for Miss Joseph to sign after her reading is done. We are delighted to have Miss Joseph here with us in Bermuda for 3 weeks, conducting a workshop for 12 participants on writing children's literature and young adult fiction. While here, Miss Joseph will also make 3 visits to schools to give mini workshops to both students and teachers, fostering an interest in the process of creative writing and hopefully inspiring a Bermudian towards composing stories that give voice to our unique experiences. Ms. Joseph follows in the footsteps of an esteemed group of writers who have participated in this program, including Professor Mervyn Morris, Commonwealth Prize winner Olive Sr., Guyanese playwright Michael Gilks, and most recently the poet Kendall Hippolyte, who served as editor for our recently published anthology of poetry entitled This Poem Worthy Place. We appreciate Ms. Joseph's willingness to help our local writers become better versed in the construction of children's literature, since this is the first time that we formally focus on this genre for the purposes of a workshop. The Writer-in-Residence Initiative is the responsibility of Folklife Officer Dr. Kim Dismont Robinson, and I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly commend her for organizing this residency, which aims at developing the talents and skills of our young local writers. On behalf of the government, thank you, Dr. Kim, for your sterling efforts in this area. We are also pleased to be working in partnership with the West Indian Association of Bermuda, the co-hosts of today's event. Their membership has prepared samplings of some traditional, delicious Caribbean foods. It is my hope and the minister's hope that this program marks the beginning of a long and beneficial relationship between the West Indian Association and the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs. Thank you. I encourage all the children who are here today to enjoy the complimentary treats that has been prepared for you. Please be sure to have a bag of popcorn, get your face painted at the conclusion of the reading. Most importantly, open your minds to the stories you will hear today, and let Ms. Joseph's words stir your imagination. Parents, I hope that events such as this will inspire you to read to your children and encourage them to develop a lifelong love of the written world. At this time, I'd like to turn the microphone over to West Indian Association President Susan Moore Williams for her remarks. Thank you all.
And a very good afternoon to you all. On behalf of the West Indian Association of Bermuda, it's my pleasure and my privilege to once again work with the Department of Culture with respect to another initiative which is of benefit to the country. We have been in collaboration on several events. One most notably was the International Art Exhibition that we had in May of 2005 to represent and, of course, to promote the idea of the history and culture of Bermuda, which is so inextricably tied together with the history and culture of the Caribbean. It is our particular pleasure also to let you in on another secret, another thing that you may not have known, and that is that Dr. Kim is also a member of the West Indian Association, and we're very, very proud of her and the work that she's doing in the Bermudian community. Of course, we are thrilled and proud to welcome Lynn, because of course she comes from our neck of the woods, our part of the world, and many of members, particularly on the executive, are also from Trinidad. So it is a particular pleasure of us to have her here. One of the most important things that we can do for our children is to encourage them to read. Reading is a lifelong exercise and a lifelong joy, and we hope that those of you who are here, the little ones, as well as the not-so-little ones, will also be blessed and enjoy and continue the journey in reading. We are very happy, of course, to know that Lynn has brought some of her books. So I do want to encourage you to come up and buy and have the privilege of having it autographed by the author. And I, of course, would like to also buy some for my son because he also is an avid reader, I'm proud to say. And in the Caribbean, we have a very rich culture. And when people think of arts, they think of the visual arts, but we also have a very rich written culture and culture, poetry. So this is a very strong tradition which we're happy to see showcased in this way. And I hope that you will enjoy all that we have on offer in terms of refreshments to also tie in and give you a taste of the Caribbean. And we also would like to invite those of you who would like to become members of the association to feel free, because we do have a table with our membership. Damien is at the back waving. If you turn around, you will see him. He's there with our membership forms, as well as our T-shirts, which we're also proudly wearing today, which are also for sale. So again, we want to express our delight and happiness to have you here, and our delight to partner with the ministry in this important initiative. And I say welcome and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Okay. Lynn Joseph was born in Trinidad. At the age of 9, Lynn moved to the United States with her family, but continued to return to Trinidad for 3 months of each summer of every year. The world became divided into school, the States, and summer, Trinidad. Lynn wrote all the time, poems, short stories, and entered school contests, and published in school literary magazines and newspapers. She became an editor of her high school newspaper and later an editor on her college paper. Lynn attended the University of Colorado in Boulder and attended law school at Fordham University School of Law. After she published her first book, Coconut Kind of Day, Island Poems, Lynn went on to write short stories, A Wave in Her Pocket and The Mermaid's Twin Sister, several picture books, and then a young adult novel, The Color of My Words. Lynn loves writing more than anything else in the world. She also needs to live near the sea. She is now writing young adult novels, and her next book is the title Flowers in the Sky and takes place in the Dominican Republic. Please join me in welcoming Lynn Joseph.
It's okay? Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for this warm welcome to Bermuda. It is my first time in this gorgeous island, and I've been here 1 week, and already I'm just overwhelmed by not only the beauty of the island, but the amount of cultural events that have been going on. I mean, next week alone, there's the Shakespeare in the schools. I've been going to the Chew Stick to hear poets read out loud, and Bermuda just has a lot of interest and events that develop writers, and I'm so happy to see that. So I hope that those with children will, use these events to foster their love and to build a love of reading and writing. I'm going to read, because we have a lot of children here, and these stories tend to be more interesting, I'm going to read from a book called A Wave in Her Pocket, Stories from Trinidad. It was a book I wrote many years ago, actually, and it came out of my life in Trinidad. When many times we go to the beach, we go places, and there's always a tanti, there's always somebody telling stories. And the oral tradition of storytelling is, it's strong everywhere, and all throughout the Caribbean. And what I wrote in my note at the beginning of the book, I said almost all families in Trinidad have a tanti. A tanti is usually a grand aunt who helps to take care of all the nephews and nieces. She often gives advice to mothers on raising children, even if she herself has no children. On family outings, she entertains the children by gathering them all together and telling them stories. Now, I'm going to read some of the stories that had characters, folklore characters, events that I heard about when I was a child growing up. Some of them are very scary to me. And I wanted to capture these stories in written form because I had not seen any books like this when I was growing up. And so when I became an adult and I had my own children, I wanted to write something that I could read to them. Okay, so I'm going to read the first story. It's called Asukia Dies. Every year, my daddy's family has a big beach picnic at Mayaro Bay. Daddy, Mama, and I arrive early in the morning. Daddy's 8 brothers and sisters are already there. My 5 uncles set up the coal pots and gather sticks for the fire. My aunts unpack the food. I smell Auntie Hazel's tangy coconut bread all the way from the road. Some of my cousins climb the coconut tree that leans over the water. Some pound the cricket wickets into the sand. My favorite cousins, Avril, Cedric, Susan, and Gerard, usually stand near Tanti. Tanti is the only person who just sits down. When I run up, Tanti will say, "Morning, Amber." I will give a little curtsy. On my island, we curtsy or bow when we say hello to important people. And Tanti is very important. She's the only one who tells the stories. At Latsia's picnic, though, Tanti did more than just tell a story. She caused a big bacchanal and scare everybody. It started when Tanti stood at the edge of the sea and shouted, "Which one of you is a sukiya?" None of us knew what Tanti was talking about, but a sukiya is nothing to make joke with. It's a ball of fire that flies through the air and will suck the blood clean out of you. My cousin Avril, who is the bravest one in our little group, asked Tanti, "What you talking about, so? Who is a sukiya?" Tanti didn't pay him no mind. She just looked at the sea and laughed. At lunchtime, when the sun was so hot it burned up our feet, we all sat under the coconut trees. Tanti tied a big red kerchief around her waist. We thought it was a napkin. But then she tied tiny bells onto the ends of the kerchief. "They'll ring when the sukiya comes near," she said. Cedric, who is 9 years old like me, went and sat by Tanti to listen for the bells. But Tanti got up and stamped her foot at him. "Which one of you is the sukiya?" she shouted. "Tanti, you know we are not sukiyas," he said. "Not us." Tanti's bells rang a tiny bit, and she looked at the sea and laughed. It was a scary laugh, and I couldn't stop thinking about it all afternoon as I played cricket and dug for chip-chips in the wet sand. Daddy had promised to make his famous chip-chip soup with the meat from the tiny shells, but I couldn't think much about Daddy's soup. I could hear Tanti's voice in the back of my mind asking, "Which one of you is the sukiya?" I looked over at Mama resting by the sea, at Auntie Hazel reading a book, and at Uncle Rupert cutting open coconuts. I looked at baby James sleeping on his soft bed of leaves. None of them looked like a sukiya to me. What in the world was Tanti talking about? Then the sun went down. Hundreds of stars shone through the coconut leaves. A little moon slid up into the sky. Daddy, Mama, and my aunts and uncles packed up the coal pots. "We're coming back later," they said, and off they went for their walk, leaving Tanti alone with us. Tanti sat down on the sand. Me and my cousins sat around her. "Tanti, you going to tell us about the sukiya now?" Avril asked. Tanti nodded her head and her bells rang softly. The coconut trees bent down their heads and made huge, scary faces on the sand. Then Tanti began. "Once, a long time ago, an old woman from this very family of ours lived at the end of a village road. She never had any visitors, and she didn't want any either. All day long, this old woman slept. But when the sun went down into the sea, and the birds in the old trees over her house turned into bats, the old woman awoke." Tanti's bell started ringing, but she went on with her story. The woman woke up and started peeling off her skin, one piece at a time. Then she bundled up her skin and put it in a cold stone jug. Now she was nothing but a ball of fire, a sukiya. She hid the jug where no one could find it. Slowly, so that she wouldn't touch anything in the house and catch it on fire, the sukiya rose up through the roof. "Shriek!" she cried as the village dogs began howling, and off she flew. Villagers far and wide were terrified of the Sukiya. No one was safe walking home from market at night. Anyone who had far to walk had to close up his stall early. The villagers knew that the Sukiya waited for anyone foolish enough to walk alone at night. If she found anyone, she'd fly down and cover him up with fire, then suck the blood clean out of him. Tanti's bells were ringing a little louder now, but she didn't seem to notice. She continued. One day, a young boy new to the village heard about the Sukiya. He set out for the old woman's house at the edge of the village road. He had a plan. He waited in the bushes till the sun went down and the birds had changed into bats. Then he watched carefully as the Sukiya hid her stone jug of skin on a high shelf. As soon as the Sukiya rose up through the roof, the boy ran into her hiding place and took down the jug of skin. In his pocket was a bag filled with the coarse salt that villagers used to cure goat meat and ham. He sprinkled it all over the skin. Then he ran home before the Sukiya could see him from the night sky. As night faded, the Sukiya flew swiftly through the forest toward her home. She took down the jug and tried to put on her skin, but something was wrong. It burned like fire. It shrank and slid off of her, and the Sukiya wailed, "Skin, kin, kin, you not know me? You not know me?" She had to get back into her skin before the sun rose. Then she realized what must have been done. And as the sun rose slowly over the trees, the Sukiya's ball of flame died down to nothing. The day had dawned before she could return to her skin. That night, the villagers threw a big party and everyone rejoiced. But as Tanti finished telling us the story, her bells began to ring even louder than before. "But how can the bells ring?" cried my cousin Susan, who is a scaredy cat. "The Sukiya is gone." In the moonlight, Tanti's face looked frightened. "Yes," she whispered, "that Sukiya is gone. But what those villagers didn't know is that every 50 years, a new Sukiya rises up in this family of ours. Today is 50 years since the old woman sang her song, 'Skin, kin, kin, you na know me?' Tanti's bells rang louder and louder, and we held onto each other's hands tightly. Which one of us was the Sukiya? Suddenly, a small burst of flame flew up and over the coconut trees. There was a loud scream. I ran behind a rock. I could hear Avril and Jared yelling and Tanti's bells ringing and someone or something crashing through the trees close to where I was hiding. "The Sukiya is coming," I said to myself. Then, above all the shouting and carrying on, I heard Mama's voice, and Daddy's, and Uncle Rupert's, and Auntie Hazel's, and the rest of them. I peeked out from behind my rock and saw them shining torchlights at the trees. "Come on, children," they said. "Tanti was just telling one of her little stories. No big thing to be scared of." One by one, we came out from our hiding places. Auntie Hazel was asking, "Why you must scare the children so, Tanti?" Tanti never answered. I think that was because of what she and me and my cousins knew. Even though our mothers and fathers took us home and tucked us safely into our beds, me and my cousins never forgot that we saw that ball of flame fly up past the coconut trees when Tanti's bells were ringing loud, loud. We never figured out which one of us was the Sukiya either. All right. Thank you. I wanted to read a little bit of some different books. And someone had mentioned that they used Jump Up Time, a carnival story in their classes. This happens to be one of my favorites because I wrote this for my sister. I have a younger sister named Christine who always wanted to be the older sister. And like many children, the younger sibling always wants to do the things that the older sibling is doing. So I wrote this story because it represented an event in Trinidad that we celebrate pretty much all year round, which is Carnival. We never wait just for Carnival. And the importance of it to the entire family, the children, and the whole community is what I was trying to convey in this book. Okay? But before I start, does anybody have any questions about any stories or anything in particular about Trinidad culture and how we convey it in stories and so forth? Does anyone have any questions, or should I start? Is everyone good? Okay. Jump up time. And you get to see pictures in this one. I don't do the illustrations, by the way. It's party time. It's jump up time. Oh yeah, Trinidad Carnival here. Steel band playing in the streets. All of we dancing to the beat. Colors bright and sassy. Play mass, come and jump with we. Mama, isn't that the best song for this year's carnival? Asked Lily, dancing around the kitchen to the music coming from the radio. Mama only nods her head. Her mouth is full of pins. Don't bother Mama now, little Lil, says Lily's sister Christine. She's standing on a chair turning this way and that as Mama drapes shimmery red and green cloth all over her. Lily frowns. That old carnival costume not finished yet, she mumbles, quiet, quiet, so no one can hear. Christine has insisted that since Trinidad is the land of the hummingbird, a hummingbird is the only thing she could be for her first carnival. Who would have thought that one tiny hummingbird would be so much trouble? Lily shakes her head. For 6 months, the whole family has been working on this carnival costume. At first, it was fun. There was cloth to pick out in rainbow colors. There were shiny beads and rhinestones to order. There were hundreds of white feathers to dye in hummingbird colors. Daddy, Christine, and Lily read books about the hummingbird to find out exactly how it looked. Then they created a costume to look just like a real hummingbird. Lily loves the glitter and feathers all around her. What she doesn't like is how bossy Christine acts just because it's her carnival costume. Just then, Mama says, Lily, please hold up the tail feathers so that I can pin the back of the costume. Lily scolds, picking up the edges of the tail feathers with the tips of her fingers. Stop wiggling it, Will Lily, Christine snaps. Mama will get it all crooked. I hope she does, Lily mutters, making a face at Christine's back. When Mama finishes, Christine steps carefully down off the chair and runs to Mama's bedroom to look in the mirror. Thanks, Lily, says Mama, picking up the scraps of red and green cloth from the floor. I didn't do anything, says Lily, holding open the bag of scraps for Mama. Yes, you did, Mama smiles broadly. Lily smiles a small smile back at Mama. From down the hall, Christine shouts, Come, Mama, come and see. It go look different in the bedroom, grumbles Lily as Mama hurries away. Lily turns up the radio full blast, but over the beat of the steel drums, she can hear Mama say, Christine, you are a perfect hummingbird. And Christine's squeal of joy, Mama, I can't wait for carnival to come. Me either, Lily says to herself, because that could be the end of that old carnival costume. That night, Mama sits at the kitchen table sewing. Come and keep me company, Lil, she says. Lily watches as Mama sews beads and rhinestones onto the costume. The rhinestones look like bright raindrops landing on a red and green river. The costume is so pretty that Lily can't stand to look at it. What's wrong, little Lil? Asks Mama. Nothing, Lily grumbles. Mama puts down the sewing and looks at her. You want to play mass too? Mama says gently. Yes, why can't I? Lily begs. You just hold your horses, Lily. When you start school next year, you can wear any costume you want and play mass. But next year's too long, says Lily. I want to jump up now. Don't worry, little Lil. We'll have plenty fun watching the bands and costumes. Mama rubs Lily's head. But Lily doesn't want her head rubbed. And she doesn't want anyone calling her little Lil. Most of all, Lily doesn't want to watch Christine dancing all over the house in her carnival costume. When Carnival Day arrives, everyone is too excited to eat the special breakfast of fried bake and saltfish, even Lily. Daddy can't sit still to drink his coffee. He keeps jumping up to check the stitching and the glue on the costume. Like he afraid it'll go fall apart on stage, mumbles Lily. Deep down, she almost wishes it would. Daddy carries the costume carefully to the car. Mama ties ribbons on the ends of Lily's 2 long plaits and tucks a pink handkerchief into her sleeve. Come on, everybody, we're going to be late, Christine says. The savannah is already full of people when they arrive. All around, Lily sees children putting on their colorful costumes. There are skirts with bells and sparkles, helmets with spiky horns, and fat long tails trailing in the grass. Lily looks down at her plain brown legs. She wishes hard that they would turn into something sparkly and special. Lily, I need your help with the costume, calls Daddy. First a frame, he says, placing it around Christine, to give the costume shape. Now the feathers. 1 yellow layer for the foundation, Mama says. 1 red layer for contrast, Daddy says. And 1 green layer for real birdness, says Lily. She holds the ribbon up to her waist and swishes the green feathers around like a pretty skirt. Stop, Christine yells. Daddy takes the green feathers and puts them around Christine. Hummingbirds hum, dearie, they don't yell, he says to her. Now Christine is nothing but feathers. What a fat bird, says Lily grumpily, but nobody is listening to her. Daddy, Mama, and Christine have turned to look at the soca band going by on the back of a truck. The band is playing a top calypso song and everyone joins in the singing. Lily can't help but tap her foot to the beat, but Christine is standing so still, she seems frozen. Look at that big stage, she whispers. Lily looks over at the stage in the middle of the savannah, where the jump up will be. You scared or what? She asks. Because if you want, I could jump up for you. I'm not afraid, says Christine. The sun shines down hot, hot on Lily's head. Mama pours 2 cups of cold Morby from her cooler. For my thirsty birds. Christine pushes her beak to the side to drink. Daddy winks at Lily. She looks funny, he whispers. She looks scared, thinks Lily. Lily looks again at the stage looming in the distance. The bleachers are crowded with people clapping, singing, and stomping their feet. On the grass, hundreds of children with shiny painted faces are jumping up. If it was me who had to go up on that stage right now, I might be scared too, Lily admits to herself. She peeks over at Christine. Mama has an arm around her shoulders. Daddy is patting her hand underneath the feathers. To her surprise, Lily sees that her big sister has tears in her eyes. Without stopping to think, Lily slips the pink handkerchief out from her sleeve and puts it in Christine's hand. It's okay, Christine, she whispers. Just pretend you're jumping up in the kitchen at home. Christine wipes her eyes with the handkerchief. I never jump up in the kitchen, Lily, that's you. Well, pretend you're me then, jump up for both of us. Christine gives Lily a shaky smile. Okay, she says. Suddenly they hear music coming from the stage. It's this children's steel band. Everyone shouts. Christine and Lily hold hands tight as the children's steel band marches on the stage. One boy unfolds a microphone and shouts, "The party now start, jump up!" And the band rolls into Lily's favorite calypso. The savannah turns into a huge party. All around Lily are giggling tadpoles, laughing poinsettias, and dancing mango trees. A fruit bowl with real guavas, bananas, and pomerancs coming out of his hat is waving a banana standard in the air. An Arawak Indian princess is leading a line of children onto the stage. Lily squeezes Christine's hand. Play mass, she tells her. Christine slips into the crowd to go on stage. One by one, the costumes go by in more shapes and colors than Lily has ever seen in her life. Then Christine Hummingbird comes gliding high above them, like a fairy tale creature, hardly seeming to touch the stage. The crowd cheers, and Mama, Daddy, and Lily clap, whistle, and shout. Lily stomps her feet as hard as she can and waves her arms in the air. And there, underneath the beak and all those feathers, Lily sees that Christine is smiling a big Carnival Day smile. When Christine glides down the ramp, Mama, Daddy, and Lily rush over to her. "You were splendid," says Mama. "Real birdie-ful," Daddy jokes. "The best one," Lily shouts. "You think so?" asks Christine. "Yeah," says Lily, smiling at her. Then Christine lifts the plume off her head. "Here, Lily," she says, placing it on Lily's head. "It's yours. Thanks for helping with the costume and everything." For the first time ever, Lily has nothing to say. She stands still as Christine places the feathers around her and ties the beak in place. Lily is so happy, she feels as if she can fly, just like the hummingbird. Mama and Daddy look at her with wide grins on their faces. Then Daddy starts clapping his hands, and Mama joins in. Play mass, Lily," shouts Christine. And right there in the middle of the savannah, wearing the most beautiful carnival costume ever, Lily jumps up to the steel band music blaring from the stage. It's party time, it's jump up time. Oh yeah, Trinidad Carnival here. So. More? More? All right, so from short stories to picture books, I just decided to start writing older stories and poems as well. So I had written pretty much, I think, about 6 or 7 books about Trinidad, and I had used up all my Trinidad experiences. So I decided to find another island, and I went all over the Caribbean. I went to Barbados, I went to St. Lucia, and there were beautiful islands, but when I got to the Dominican Republic, there was just something there that inspired me. It reminded me a lot of home, first of all. The music was different, of course, the merengue and the bachata and the salsa, but the energy of Trinidad was the same in Dominican Republic. The language is different, but the energy, the music made me feel the same way as the music from home. So I started writing about the Dominican Republic. I started going to their people's homes, going around the island, meeting people, learning to speak a little Spanish. And what I found out was they have very much the same stories. Very much the same stories that we had in Trinidad. You know, they didn't call it a sukiya, they didn't call it a ligahu, they didn't call it papa boy, but they had other names for the same characters. And more importantly, the little girls that I met, that were 10, 11 years old, reminded me exactly of how I was when I was in Trinidad, which just made me feel as if, you know, the islands, and I include Bermuda in this because I've been all around Bermuda in 1 week. I've been riding my bicycle everywhere. And the energy that I feel here, and I don't know if it comes from the ocean or what it is, but there is definitely a very strong feeling of being connected to each other, no matter which island we're from. So I started writing about a girl who's about 12 years old in the Dominican Republic, and she wrote poems. This girl, her name is Anna Rosa. This is my newest book. She wrote poetry. She wanted to be a writer. But in her island, she was very poor. She came from a very poor family. They didn't even have enough money for her to buy extra notebooks to write in. So she wanted to follow her dream of being a writer, and she didn't know how to do it. She started taking her brother's pages from his notebook that he was a waiter in a restaurant, and she would take his pad that he wrote down orders in and write stories on it. She used to sit in a tree and look around at the entire, the countryside and come up with stories. So no matter the fact that she didn't even have paper. She didn't have a notebook. She still created. And that, what I was hoping to get across in this book is the strong spirit of creativity that all of us have in us. However it could be parenting, creative parenting skills, however we, display it or portray our creativity, nothing should hold us back. So I was going to read just part of a story from Ana Rosa's experiences in Dominican Republic. It's my last story. And I need my glasses. Words. May I have some paper, please? Please, may I have some paper? 'Cause these words of mine go walk away. They go walk away all by themselves and get lost in the crowd. May I have some paper, please? Please, may I have some paper? To catch these words and wrap them up where they can't walk away, slip off the edge, and drown. I was turning into a little thief, always stealing bits and pieces of paper to write on. Sometimes it was the paper bags that Pappy brought home his bottles of rum in. Sometimes napkins or the gray paper that the shopkeepers used to wrap up goods. But I wanted more than anything a notepad of my very own, one in which I could write poems by Ana Rosa Hernandez on the first page and then fill it up with words, long words, short words, words that smelled and tasted and felt like something new. But my only notebook was for school. Mommy told me that a new notebook cost 40 pesos, a lot of money, 2 whole dinners for our family. How many bottles of rum can Papi buy with 40 pesos, I wondered. My brother Guario had a notepad. It was filled with pages of empty spaces waiting for words. I asked him once, Guario, can I have your notepad to write my poems in? He shook his head. It's for work. I'm sorry, but you can tell me your poems anytime you want. I looked up at my big brother and smiled. Guario worked as a waiter at a restaurant near the beach. Everyone knew that Guario had one of the best jobs in town because he was very handsome. The tourists liked to have him smile and chat with them while they ordered their food. Girls from cold, faraway countries were always falling in love with my brother. Cover of Guario's notepad. The empty pages filled with wind and blew up one after the other, showing me all the lovely blank spaces waiting for words. I could write on a few pages and tear them out, I thought. He would never notice. I picked up a pencil and looked around. No one was coming. So I wrote, first one page, then another and another. I stopped when I had filled 5 pages with words about Mount Isabel de Torres and about Sosua Beach, which I love. I wrote about the Niños and about climbing my favorite gree-gree tree. I wrote a poem about Angela, my beautiful, silly older sister who knew nothing but how to smile at men passing by our porch. I wrote about my brother Roberto, who worked hard in the sun, renting beach chairs to tourists. Suddenly, the lights went out. It was another power blackout. A good thing, too, because I might not have stopped writing. I tore out the pages carefully and slipped them into my pocket. I went and sat on the porch and watched as the sky filled up its blue spaces with pinks and oranges and a deep, deep purple. Utter darkness swelled over everything. With the darkness was complete silence as well, since the neighbors' radios could not blare out their loud merengues. I felt the pages in my pocket. Just a couple more, I thought. No one would know at all. I tiptoed back inside and lit a candle. I sat at the table and wrote under the candle's light. I wrote one page after another until there was no more empty pages in Guario's notebook. Then I heard a noise. Ana Rosa, are you there? It was Mommy. I jumped up and stuffed the notepad into my pocket. See, Mommy, right here. What are you doing, Carinos? She asked. Nada, Mommy, nada, I said loudly to chase away the shakings in my body. Mommy came over and put her hand under my chin. She tilted my head toward the candle's light and looked into my eyes. You sure? She asked. I nodded and swallowed. I put my hand over the notepad in my pocket and slipped out of the room. I went into the bedroom that I shared with Angela. I sat on the bed with my hands in my pocket, holding my secret close. Finally, I reached under the thin mattress and stuffed the notepad as close to my side of the bed as I could. The next day, everybody in the house was looking for that notepad. Gloria was shouting that he would be fired. That made Papi very frightened. Although Papi always swore that if he got up off his porch chair in the middle of the day, he'd get heat stroke, he too was helping to look for the book. It was like a madhouse. Papi and Gloria and Roberto and Angelo and my little cousins were throwing everything out the front door in their frantic search. Chairs, a radio, empty rum bottles, old newspapers, clothes, shoes, our 2 dogs, some stray hens, pecking at this and that, all went sailing into the dusty yard. Of course, I knew exactly where it was, under the mattress. But I was too scared to say so. I pretended to help look around the house. Then I went into the kitchen where Mommy was rolling out dough for empanadas. "Mommy," I said nervously, "everyone's looking for Gloria's notebook." Mommy nodded her head but didn't look up. I only had to stand there for a minute before she said, "It'll turn up when it's ready." That's when I knew that she knew. I waited for her to shout at me, but Mommy just kept on sprinkling flour and rolling the dough. I just didn't understand Mommy at all. I went into the bedroom and slipped my hand far under the mattress. The notepad was there. I sat on the floor chewing my finger. Gloria had already asked me twice if I had seen his notepad, and I had said no. I couldn't stop how fast that no came out of my mouth. I wanted to tell him the truth, but my mouth just wouldn't say anything else. "What are you doing, just sitting there?" asked Angela, coming into the bedroom. She tossed pillows on the floor and started to pull the sheets off the bed. I looked there already," I said quickly, before she decided to turn the mattress upside down. My heart was beating faster and faster as Gloria's shouting filled up all corners of the house. Papi was cursing, and Roberto and Angela were racing around with scared looks on their faces. There was a horrible fear in the air. Fear of what would happen if Gloria lost his job. There was nowhere in the way in the world I could hand over that notepad now with every page of it full of my careless words. Then we heard Mommy's voice. "Lunch is ready. Come inside and eat. And stop fussing about that notepad." The stern sound covered me like night's sweet darkness. Mommy knew, and she wasn't telling. Now, no matter what is wrong in our family, we always listen to Mommy. So when Mommy called us all to eat, we stopped our wild hunting and sat down at the table. Mommy said the prayer, and Papi served us plates full of red beans and rice and crispy brown empanadas stuffed with chicken and spices. There were tall glasses of lime juice and precious ice cubes. It was one of the best lunches ever, and it could have been served for a holiday. It was as if Mommy had cooked a special meal on purpose to distract the family. And it worked. Afterward, everyone sat back, full and relaxed, as if empanadas could make the world look brighter and red beans and rice could make worries disappear. We talked about where the notepad could be and what could have happened to it. Papi wasn't cursing anymore, and Gloria wasn't shouting. Finally, Papa reached into his pocket and took out some pesos. He put them on the table. Then Mommy dug her hand deep into a pocket of her dress and put some pesos on the table too. Roberto jumped up and went into the kitchen and came back with some pesos that he put next to Mommy's and Papi's pesos. Gloria looked surprised, and I noticed that his eyes were turning bright red, as if he were trying not to cry. But that could not be possible. I had never seen Gloria cry in my life. Gloria was 19 years old, and he was my big, strong brother who took care of everything. Mommy called him Jefe when Papi was not around. Jefe means boss, and that was what Gloria was. He worked 2 jobs and bought all our food and fixed everything that went wrong. He was always serious. "Here," said Papi, pushing the pesos over to Gloria. "Take this and buy a new notepad for work." Gloria nodded and stood up. He walked around the table and kissed Mommy on her cheek. Then he walked out the house to go to work. I watched Gloria's wide back move steadily away from us. When I turned around, Mommy raised her eyebrows at me as if to say, "What are you waiting for?" I jumped up and ran after Guario. He was at the corner, waiting for one of the noisy motorcycle taxis to take him to work. "Guario," I called. He turned around. I dashed up to him and threw my arms around his waist. His hand smoothed down the flyaway hairs in my ponytail. "I took your notepad," I whispered into his shirt. "I'm sorry." Guario kept stroking my hair. After a while, he said, "I know what it feels like." "How what feels like?" I asked. "To want something so bad." "What have you wanted so bad?" I asked, looking at him. "A future," he answered. And then I saw the tears in his eyes for real. This was not the first time I heard Guario talk about wanting a future. I just never paid any attention. But to be right there at that moment, hearing and seeing him, the whole world tilted for the first time away from me, to someone else, my big brother. Guario and I stood at the corner with our arms around each other as all the motorcycle taxis drove by, blowing their horns. It was the first time I knew that words could not tell everything. Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and to continue supporting all the children who are writing today in schools. Please do all you can, because I have seen some very talented teenagers already, and I look forward to seeing more next week when I go to visit the other schools. Okay, thank you so much.
Wasn't that wonderful, everyone? Wasn't that terrific? I thoroughly enjoyed that reading, and this is really exciting for us at the department, because this is the first time we have focused on children's literature, and so it's just really nice to be able to bring that experience of creative writing and the importance and the joy of creative writing to young children. I'd like to ask the junior minister to present a gift to Ms. Joseph.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. And just to echo, I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was wonderful. And on behalf of the government and the Ministry of Community Development, we want to give you a token of our appreciation. And this is, what is it again, Dr. Kim? Shark oil. That's right. Shark oil. Shark oil. Shark oil. Authentic Bermudian shark oil. Well, it's a barometer to tell the weather on a handcrafted cedar base.
So I'd just like to encourage everyone to enjoy the rest of the festival. We have the face painting, which is just getting set up right now. And we've got the popcorn. Please, by all means, have some of the refreshments provided by the West Indian Association. I'm heading in that direction myself right now. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and thank you again for coming out.
Thank you.